I linked the video in the chat as well. Shout out to Kripp. We're going to be watching PoE 2 is Ruthless Early Access Review, Path of Exile 2. Now, before watching this video, I wanted to give some generalizations on thoughts of my take on the game so far. There's obviously it's early access, a lot of bugs, a lot of issues, a lot of imbalanced things. There's some good things with that as well, such as GGG being very fast when it comes to fixing, as well as listening to the community feedback and adjusting these things, as well as balance changes at a rapid pace and consistent pace, rather, as well. Much faster than I thought they would actually do. So I've been having a lot of fun. I personally find the game to have a lot of lack in the crafting department. It feels, even after the loot buffs, some things feels a bit off when it comes to crafting specifically and loot optimization structure. I love the tier system. I love those approaches to it, but the lack of easy to access crafting was both good and bad. It's easy to have access to, but without information, it becomes a bit daunting for most people to get into. At the same time, it feels kind of like a ruthless approach, like literally the Ruthless League. For those of you who played PoE 1 knows what I'm talking about. I feel like, in general, I like the idea of it, but there's a lot of things lacking. When it comes to the approach of endgame, I really, really like the feel of mapping in general. Because I'm in a position where I don't do the same map all the time. I hate doing that in PoE 1. I feel like I'm incentivized. I'm going on a journey with the map system with this infinite scaling approach to that. And I really, really like that personally. Now, there are some bad things with it. It feels kind of sluggish, like you're just grinding. Because I was in a moment where I wanted to farm for the Citadel endgame bosses or the endgame pinnacle boss. And basically, I just ran to the side trying to find where these were. Found 2 of them and I bought one. Then I bought another set, and something that was really surprising to me with the Pinnacle boss was that something GGG does really, really well is communicating certain attacks and whatnot to the point where you are informed enough, you have been given enough information to know what you're going to do. And if you fail it, it's on you. And there was not enough communication on certain mechanics that literally one-shot me, that pissed me the fuck off. So I'll try a third time later and see how it goes. Yeah, that's one of it things. I will say that the Pinnacle boss, the attacks and everything, the things that were telegraphed well was ridiculously fast. It's a very, very, very hard fight from what I can see. And so I'm very excited about it. It's going to be fun to do. But there's some other things. But most of the issues I have is surrounding crafting, repetitiveness when it comes to the current state of the game that feels a bit sluggish. Loot system, even after the buffs, feels a bit off in general. I think that another problem that I don't think anyone has touched upon, we'll see if Kripp does that in this video, is crafting in, the idea of a currency sink. So the way the market works is simple economy 101, little TLDR on this. In PoE 1, there's a crafting bench where most crafts cost Chaos Orbs to craft. Therefore, Chaos Orbs becomes a natural currency sink available currency, and they become, because of the common drops as well, becomes the baseline currency to trade between one another in a trade environment. And the meta crafts, or the bigger crafts, usually requires divines, or back in the day it was exalted orbs, and they then become naturally the higher value items. There is no natural currency sink in Path of Exile 2 that is entirely player base created by people using these orbs to craft with. So that basically, because of the lack of crafting system being natural, feel good in PoE 2, where there's annulment orbs and stuff like that where you can remove mods, that makes you really have no sense in using it, because you might as well just exalt slam, or in the if you want to remove a mod and then add a new one, you'll just use a chaos orb. So there's like some orbs feels like they don't really fit in the idea of the crafting that they have right now. Another thing to crafting to add before we watch this video is essences. Essences was communicated to have you find a base item, which has literally been how we craft. I don't know how many times I've been in a position where I picked up white items because they're a good base, and then put a augment or transmute on it to make them blue, and then augmented it to have 2 modifiers on the blue. And if I don't get a good mod on it, I'll just throw it out. That's been the most common crafting method I've been using. I don't like the approach to that. When you hit something good, it's nice, but the crafting is bad. That's terrible. And essences were supposed for you to are meant for you to guarantee a specific type of mod on an item that is white into blue, so that it further incentivizes you to literally pick up white bases. And it feels kind of crazy. However, they also promoted the idea of greater essences, that you could guarantee another mod on the item, making it from blue to rare. And I've played for, let's find out how long I've played this game. I played for 4 days, 1 hour and 10 minutes of active gameplay. On top of that, before I switched the tree because I got so annoyed with it, I actually had the entire essence tree on the Atlas passives, giving me more chances to get essences. Let me show you my essence tab, displaying how many essences that I got that does that. It's 1. In 4 days of active gameplay, I have found 1 essence that does this. This is a lot of hours played after the fix to this as well. So, not a huge fan of that mechanic at all. However, we're going to watch this video. So again, shout out to Kripp. I'll link the video again in the chats, and then we get going. Let's find out. I will say, though, again, I'm having a lot of fun. I find the game very entertaining.
Hey guys, how's it going? Kripp here. Today I want to give you guys my take on Path of Exile 2. Haven't played it for several days, almost a week, but I have been playing like 14 plus hours a day, and I have been near the top of the ladder, so I have been playing quite efficiently. So basically I'm at the point right now where most people start to approach in, like, you know, a few weeks time, depending on how much time you know, you might have to dedicate to the game. And I want to give you guys my opinion of things, and you might not agree with some things. You know, there's a game out there for everyone, and I think my opinion is valuable, at least because while you might have your own take on the game, you might be having a lot of fun right now, but yeah, I can kind of tell you how probably you will feel in some time, in a week's time, in 2 weeks' time, whatever. That's just kind of how these things work when you have people like me who just play every waking hour of the day, all day when the game comes out. So, as you have seen the title of the video, Path of Exile 2 is ruthless. This is not like describing Path of Exile 2, though I guess it could describe Path of Exile 2. It is actually literal. Ruthless is a game mode in Path of Exile 1, and in my opinion, the Ruthless game mode in Path of Exile 1 has been the pre-alpha test for Path of Exile 2. The concepts behind everything, the concepts behind scarcity, it is like the same thing. And again, I want you guys to understand this is not like an ignorant opinion. Ruthless is what I've mostly been playing in Path of Exile 1 since Path of Exile 1 added Ruthless to.
Kripp has been grinding Ruthless. And I think he's always, like, he tends to go in and play like one build every league. And he does it in Ruthless. It's so much, it's actually pretty cool to see. But I've never liked Ruthless. I see where he's going, like where he's talking about how Ruthless feels like that in that sense, but he also has more experience than most in the Ruthless environment of Path of Exile 1. I like parts of the scarcity. It just feels like sometimes the scarcity is there for the sake of scarcity. I think that's the biggest issue I have with it, personally at least.
Its game mode list. I have leveled many characters past 90, and level 90 in Ruthless is about equivalent to level 100 outside of Ruthless, so it is quite a task. And I really liked Ruthless, and for a lot of the reasons why I really like Ruthless, I quite like Path of Exile 2, but as you will see in today's video, there are certainly some issues that make it a little bit less fun. But it is pretty surprising to me, because I know a lot of people have been hyped for Path of Exile 2. A lot of people who played Path of Exile 1, they were kind of ridiculing Ruthless about how stupid of a game mode it is.
True.
And now they're basically playing the graphical and mechanical update to Ruthless. And everyone's having so much fun. How about
in
that?
that sense, at least. Yeah.
I think Ruthless is fantastic in Path of Exile 1. I think people were overly dismissive about it, but the things that exist in Ruthless and Path of Exile 1 that people who typically play Path of Exile 1 didn't really like that much certainly are there, and honestly, to a higher degree in Path of Exile 2. So I think Path of Exile 2 may appeal to a new Path of Exile gamer, but I think a lot of people who really enjoy Path of Exile 1...
I've said this before as well. I think that there's a lot of people that will not like PoE 2 at all. I think there's a vast majority of people, a larger quantity of people that will love Path of Exile 2. That's kind of where I'm standing. I personally never touched Ruthless in PoE 1. I fucking can't stand it. But in PoE 2, I'm having a lot of fun. And I think that one of the reasons I'm having so much fun is because it is very different to PoE 1. That's not saying that there's a lot of issues and things that needs to be attended or at least brought up to light and discussed around. But one of the main reasons is that it's so different. That's how I see it, at least.
May or may not like Path of Exile 2 in how the game is currently set up. Okay, but overall, I think Path of Exile 2 is a pretty good game. So you might be thinking, why is it like Ruthless? I just gave you a few examples here. I hope you guys have been enjoying the music. It's nice.
Music
Polish in the game is really, really good. Okay. Generally, it's like, you know, if you want to actually get, you know, high-tier maps, you have to literally fully invest in high-tier maps. If you want meaningful rewards from some of these, like league mechanics, you have to fully invest in them. If you just do them a little bit, they honestly feel like a waste of time. The game is filled with just real danger. It's super slow. It's super sluggish. This is the best movement skill that I have, and if you hit any object or a monster, you're stopped in your tracks, and it has a cooldown, and it has a lot of other limitations. So
I used shield charge before, but I swapped to blink. I said this before. I can't like blink, especially with second wind support. I don't think I'll play any build in this game without it. Being able to double blink like this, it is so comfortable. It makes you feel so good, and the clear speed that you get from it is significantly smoother with it as well. But I did use shield charge beforehand, and that doesn't have a cooldown because that requires me to reserve spirits. I agree with him for sure on this, but there are options, but those are very limited. It's also something I've talked about as well. One of the problems with early access right now is the heavy limitation, right, of build the variety and diversity in general. And that is a direct result of us having 6 classes with only 12 ascendancies in total. We are supposed to have 12 classes and in total 36 ascendancies, and a lot more skills and a lot more things that's supposed to be in the game that's going to provide more variety. However, the core issue that Kripp is bringing up here, I don't see that factor solving that issue. Slow, yes, much slower than PoE 1, 100%.
it is very much ruthless. It is also very unforgiving. The amount you have to invest to make a character work, to go through a boss, can be daunting. And honestly, it's not that fair either. Like, you see my character now, I have like 3,000 health with, like, honestly, an absurd amount of damage reduction mechanics, more than I've seen on any other character. And, I mean, you still get one shot. Like, this character, high-level maps, literally you're getting one-shotted all the time. The main difference from Path of Exile 2 and Root...
I'll stop him there. So before the fixed agreement feast, you didn't get one shot, but it was broken. It was an unintended feature. It was super broken. That's why everybody played it. The version I'm playing right now, he has, well, how much HP do you have? 3,000? I'm pretty decently geared. I have currently 3.6 thousand because I have mana and life for my defenses. And I am also getting one shot quite consistently. I do not have the same mitigation that he has, but I'm compensating that with a much higher life pool than he has, so to say. So that's how we're operating with the build I'm playing. And I'm also finding myself to be in a position where I can't get stuck in certain situations. I can't sit. I just died before we did this React Andy content thing to 2 big skeletons that did a very slow, very well telegraphed ability that just smacked me out of the world immediately. It went so fast I couldn't react to it after the slam was already beginning. If I'd seen it, then I would have moved away from it. But
Ruthless is actually the dodge roll. The dodge roll seems to be something they've balanced the game around, and honestly, I don't like it that much. I don't like the dodge roll that much in general, and I don't like the fact that they're balancing the game around it. So what do I mean by, how are they balancing the game around it, Kripp? Well, in Path of Exile 1, if you want to really tank a character, you can make one. If you want to make a character that survives the highest damage ability in the game, you can do that. You're going to have crappy damage, it's going to have other disadvantages, but you can do that. In Path of Exile 2, you can't really do that. You can invest in as much health and as much survivability as possible, and you can get nearly one-tapped by a near max level map, granted, But like I did an expedition the other day, and I got killed in nearly one hit. Somebody's like 50 life with like 0.2 second reaction time, a tiny white bubble on the ground. The visual clarity and understanding the danger of the events you're facing is not good in Path of Exile 2, and combined with the fact that you almost can't survive anything unless you are looking at everything all the time and utilizing your dodge roll. Like, there are many boss mechanics that if you mistime your dodge roll, you will get one-shotted. And
I don't mind you getting one-shotted from well-telegraphed boss abilities. But it is a problem in PoE 2 because you only have a one portal map. So, for example, the endgame pinnacle boss that I talked about earlier with the super well telegraphed things, the one of them did not have a good communication of where I needed to be to avoid the damage from it, and I got one shot, and I spent a lot of currency to get to that. I had one life on that. I died. I'm done. Now I have to farm it up again, which would take me many hours, or I'd have to spend the currency to buy it so I could do it again. And I did it again, died to another mechanic, and I'm like, okay. Like, it's very punishing, and it's very frustrating. And another problem we had was ultimatum encounter for one of the ascendancies. And one of the problems there was that they were extremely overtuned. Now, today, or was it yesterday night, that they did patch and did a balance pass on those things that were outliers to that, which was obnoxious how insane they were.
I want to also mention that I've taken a look at a lot of other people's builds. A lot of content creators are making builds and stuff. The way the game is set up is if you want to progress, if you want to level, if you want to reach the highest tier maps, you need to make a character that doesn't, like, almost ever die. A lot of the builds that I've seen are people doing like tier 1 and tier 2 maps with like less than 2,000 health, and I'm pretty much going to straight up say it. Some of you guys might not like this, but those guides are not worth anything when it comes to dealing with like actual high level maps. Because in actual high level maps, if you have 3,000 health, 5...
And this is why I never posted a full-blown guide until I was in endgame content to show people how the build operates in the content it should be operating in. Preach.
1,000 armor, are using active block, are keeping your distance, have damage mitigation, have armor applied to elemental damage, have damage reduction by like 20%, have a bunch of minions protecting you from a copious amount of projectiles, you're still gonna get nearly one-shotted.
And this is why Kripp is one of the very few people I talk to when it comes to designing builds and minions, specifically when I do build guides to Path of Exile. He's one of the very select few people I talk to. Because we go through these things and we discuss it, and we're trying to set up, okay, we can do this, we can do that, and we throw each other ideas back and forth. It's because things are being considered. These things are considered. And then you have this new hype game. A lot of people want to post their guides, and you get these glass cannon things that's just going to make people who play them have a really bad experience playing them.
Constantly, repeatedly. Okay, that's the game. So if you see someone, it's like, oh wow, this build is so good, I'm gonna tell you, you're in for disappointment. I've seen like 1,700 life builds. They're just like cruising through tier 1 and 2 maps. That's all they're gonna do. Okay, that's all. That's it. You maybe add like 5 tiers, and then you start getting.
This is also really funny. This is also one of the reasons I was talking to, for those of you who don't know, I make my guides and post them on Ice Events. I know Kripp, for example, posts on Mobilytics, so shout out to both Ice Events and Mobilytics. There's people making content on Meixsell as well. My guides will be available on Ice Events, for example. There's a reason we're not going to post any endgame guides because they're fully tested and they get vetted. And it's such an insane process to get those things up, because they have to be bulletproof to make sure that they are actually providing a good quality for the people following the guides. It's a whole goddamn industry behind it. It's so cool to see. And then you have guide writers or guide creators that makes guides just for clicks on YouTube. They don't go through this process, have their stuff vetted, and you end up with people just clicking on video guides and following these build guides, and it's just absolutely terrible. Exactly what Kripp here is talking about. And people have a bad experience. And then they come to the people that are actually making good content, they're actually making good build guides, and be like, oh, help me. And then you look at their builds and be like, what the fuck have you done? This is awful.
Getting one-shotted in every third map, that actually makes the character unplayable at that point. Because if you die in a map, the map is lost. Effectively, the progression to get to that map tier is lost. You are basically completely screwed. And you're set back because you do lose experience if you die at, like, I think it's level 70-something plus. You actually lose 15% experience, I believe. It's a lot of experience. So it might mean that you also never level up. Okay? So it is truly ruthless. It is beyond ruthless in that sense. All right. So let's back up a little bit. You're checking out Path of Exile 2 for the first time, and I want to kind of go over things and offer mostly my issues with the game, because, you know, you've probably heard enough positivity. I've actually quite enjoyed my playthrough. Overall, I think it's very fun to play Path of Exile 2. I recommend it for you guys to try. Okay, so you start up the game. You're in the early game. The main thing that I dislike in the early game is gems and balance. I don't like their gem system more than I like Path of Exile 1's gem system, because you can't, like, farm to get character power. In Path of Exile 1, if you're playing a character that maybe is just not so good in the early game, or maybe it's not so good in the mid game, what you can do is you can stay in a zone a little bit longer, kill a bunch more monsters, your gems will level up, and this will be like over-leveling, and it'll make the content that you're about to do a little bit less challenging. It kind of has this forgiveness, and it allows Path of Exile 1 to have broadly very well balanced content, because, well, you're not forcing people into like, at this point you have to defeat that, which is a nice concept in general, but if it's too rigid, which in my opinion in Path of Exile 2 it is, because largely of their gem system, it doesn't feel very good. In Path of Exile,
I will point out that I agree with this. One of my feedbacks for people that are struggling, especially because fights are so hard, even in the campaign, is very, very challenging, depending on the build you're playing, of course. I mean, you know, you can always do my minion builds, I'm just saying. If you're struggling, I've always kept telling people to not over level. I mean, the experience, even if you get a level or two, that's not going to do that much of a difference. However, in the early stage, and even in the mid stage, one of the most important part of character progression is less so about your gems and your character level, which is something you can have as a solution tool to overlevel in PoE 1. In PoE 2, it's more about your actual equipment. The world of difference it makes for you to have a better weapon than you had before is significant. We saw this before the game launched on Subtractor's video, for example, when he showed Mercenary doing the early, I don't know, 20-30 minutes of the campaign in Act 1, having the worst experience ever. And then he went to his sorcerer and he dropped a stupid staff on the first boss. And he was just 3-tapping everything for like acts upon acts. The problem when the game launched was the loot was terrible. This has been fixed. Loot is significantly better now. But it's still, there's still other issues with loot. Not the process of loot, dropping the items is not a problem anymore. There's other issues, which I talked about earlier as well, crafting and itemization and modifier stuff and whatnot. But upgrading your character base of equipment is basically the name of the game, and that's how you're going to get past these challenges moving forward. And that's so important. But it also feels kind of bad because you might not drop the items you need, and there's a lot of other issues with it. So you don't have this natural thing where it doesn't matter if I drop something. If I just keep grinding, I'm going to get stronger so I can bypass this challenge, which is something that PoE 1 does offer that PoE does not. PoE 2 does not.
2, if you're facing a boss and the boss is too hard, your options are basically to farm a zone for hours and hours and hours, and you'll get like 2%, maybe 10% character power if you get an item upgrade, because getting like another couple levels, it's not giving you that much power. The passive tree, there's not that much power there. Yeah. Your gems, you literally can't level them. The way that gems work is the level of a gem drops.
I don't agree with him saying that the gear is not that big, because gear is significant. Like, it's massive compared to everything else. Now, it's not, you know, doubling your power. Weapon could, I guess. But, I mean, it's not going to be that crazy. But it is significantly better than anything else. And gem levels are super important, but you can't farm that because you have to go to higher zones, which he'll obviously will be explaining now.
From a level of a zone. So if you can't beat like a boss in the campaign, you can't increase the level of your gems. The best you can do is match the level of the gems of that zone, which usually, again, doesn't give you that much character power if your main gem is already of that level. So it gets a little bit tricky because they're kind of setting themselves up for a real challenge in finding some sort of balance to this, because not every class is going to be pretty balanced in every single stage of the game, especially the early game. In my opinion, Path of Exile 1's gem system is amazing. I think it's the best skill system in an ARPG. I think it's a 10 out of 10 in terms of mechanics.
I agree with that.
It can look a little bit daunting, but in Path of Exile 2, it is a little bit more polished of a system. It looks a little bit less daunting, but it's actually not, because the core mechanics and the scaling and the optimal setups are still going to be like...
Also, for people who are not experienced with Path of Exile or how it works, they have this very neat system where there's a recommended list, so people who are completely clueless will still be able to navigate and make sound decisions for their character. They're not 100% optimal, but they're going to give you a good experience with the ability itself. Whether or not the performance or not is going to be there, that's a different story. But the idea of you having an approach of choosing what you need is really good. Now you can bypass this and still make sure you make sound decisions once you get more experience with the game and learn more about it. I love that approach personally.
Like Giga Theory crafted. It's not really any simpler in that sense. It might be a little bit simpler for the player that doesn't want to look literally anything up and just wants to dive into the game. I don't know how many players like that there are these days. Maybe there's quite a few, maybe there's not. I don't know. Maybe that's something that they're keeping in mind. But overall, the core idea that you can't get power from gems is really kind of weak, in my opinion. And I also think that it's really lame that it's trivialized with trading. So if you're playing in a trading environment, you do trivialize everything. You literally trivialize everything. You can be like, well, all these other players that have been playing the game like crazy, I can just buy a max level gem from them. Because, my character, I've been doing like some of the highest tier maps. I have like 30 gems that are like level 18 or something. I have like so many. They're worthless to me, right? So like someone who's playing behind me, just like, Kripp, I want to buy one of your level 18 gems. They literally missed out an enormous amount of progression. And this problem really does start in their gem system, and you feel this problem right away in the early parts of the campaign. For me, Act 2 was the hardest part of the game. Not of the campaign, of the entire game. The hardest part was Act 2. Why? Because I didn't get any skill gems. They're pretty rare in the campaign. I just didn't get one. I went from a level 6 Raging Spirits to a level 10 at the start of Act 3. And in Act 2,
That part, I think I was able to have a better experience with Act 2 because I wasn't focusing on the SRS. They were my backups. They are the kings of the early acts. Sorry, Act 1. But in Act 2, they fell off. And I immediately switched my focus to the arsonist approach, to my minion approach, power outside of the SRS, and I had a better experience in Act 2. I had more struggles at the tail end of Act 2 to start of Act 3, more so than the entirety of Act 2. And it is also because of the fact that I lacked that backup power the SRS would bring in my specific build that I was playing. And that was solved once I finally got access to that goddamn spirit gem that made me able to level the SRS gem. And like Kripp is saying, it was also 4 levels, some crazy shit that I have leveled it up when the first time I got to do that. It was insane.
Had 0 gem upgrades for my main source of damage. It was actually awful. And yeah, that doesn't feel good, right? It's like nothing. There's nothing I could do in terms of character power other than mindlessly grind the same zone and hope that I get a gem drop. But the buff gems, the spirit cost gems, are just like really, really rare. So yeah, I just didn't get one. A lot of people played the build guide. Glad you guys enjoyed it. And it's like, yeah, no problems, Kripp. Build's great. Thank you. It's like, yeah. But, if you get unlucky with gems, it's not going to feel super great. In the mid game, you're going to start to do ascendancies. The ascendancy system is kind of frustrating. Basically, ascendancies are not free like they are in Path of Exile 1. Getting your first ascendancy point is pretty easy. Getting your second one,
Okay, I'm just going to say it right now because people are watching the stream right now. I've been having the worst time with my ascendancies. It's been pure misery. and pain all across the board. First one, piss easy. Second one, no problems. Third one wasn't a natural. It wasn't natural to me. It made no sense that wasn't going to be the way it was. However, it turns out it was bugged. So the reason that my experience has been terrible has been because of early access, issues and bugs and glitches that's causing this to happen. I've been spending the last 6, 7 fucking hours running Sanctum to do the fourth one because most of the times you're unlucky and the portal doesn't work. You can't get your Ascendancies. I'm still not Ascended with my full power. I'm just so tired of it. Before this video, I just rage quit it. I'm like, I'm done. I'll wait for them to properly fix it at this point. But I will say that Ultimatum has been extremely overtuned. And last night, which is before this video was uploaded, I believe this is 17 hours ago. 16 hours ago. So after this video was posted, they had made a balance pass on the outliers of changes to the specifically Ultimatum. And when it comes to, for those of you who don't know, Ultimatum is one of the two different ways of ascending. So it feels it's better now with Ultimatum, significantly better. The Sanctum, or sorry, the Trial of Sekhem, as it's called in PoE 2, it's called Sanctum in PoE 1, is significantly better in PoE 2, though I have a personal bias of hatred towards that mechanic. The only thing I'll say on it is that the game is new, PoE 2 is new. I understand this idea of making 2.0 versions of it, but I'm not a big fan of the ascendancies being gated on those two specific mechanics. We also know that when early access gets away from early access, there's going to be a third option to ascend to. The only problem I have with that, which I'm sure Kripp will actually talk about, is that the way they've set it up in the campaign is that in Act 2, early Act 2 actually, you get access to one of the trials. Now, that's fine. In middle end of Act 3, you get access to the other one. And it seems like we can expect the third option to be Act 4, 5, or 6. What it means for most kind of players is that if we're presented with the power of getting ascending to get a significant boost of character power, we're not going to wait an entire act. We're not going to wait 2 acts, and we're sure as hell not going to wait more than 2 acts before we get that first node to move forward. And as a result of that, we're kind of forced into that first one. No matter if they say that we have 3 options, we are literally incentivized to engage with whatever becomes available first. And I'm not a fan of that personally.
You have to do like an ultimatum. An ultimatum is insane RNG. You can do the same ultimatum and it can be unbelievably easy. It's like just clearing white trash mobs, or it can be borderline impossible for the build that you're currently playing. I don't think this is a very good system. I like the idea behind it, but generally it feels that at least the first 3 ascendancy like groups should be a little bit more free, so people could actually kind of, take in the class that they're meaning to play. I don't feel you should have to like go that hard for it. It's also Sanctum. Forced Sanctum is not something that everyone's going to like. You might like Sanctum in Path of Exile 1. I know a lot of you guys did, but in Sanctum, I played in Ruthless. And let me tell you something about Sanctum and Ruthless. With absolutely 0 movement skills or teleports, Sanctum is not all that fun. A lot of people have been...
I just want to point out that that teleport was a game changer for me in the Trial of Sekhem, also known as Sanctum. Game changer.
Seriously spoiled with Flame Dash to levels that you can't imagine anymore until you hit up some of the Sanctums. Like, I had to do a 4-floor Sanctum for the 4th Ascendancy major node. Those are crazy. Also in the mid game, you're going to start to see balance start to come in. You're going to start to see one-shots. It's not really easy. I was going to say not possible, but it's kind of possible. It's not really easy to significantly increase your survivability. It's going to be a case where you can't really cap a lot of your resists while you're doing the campaign, but if you're lucky, maybe you'll be able to. But you'll still reach that point where you just can't do a whole lot about it. You can't gain that much survivability from the passive skill tree because there's
very limited defensive options on the tree. I wasn't rest capped till mid map tiers, like map 6, 7, 8. something like that, is when I actually finally got my rest capped. And I'm still not capped on chaos, which is actually important on Infernalist, because a lot of 20% of the chaos damage that you, sorry, physical damage that you take is taken as your chaos damage. And I don't know, like I don't know how I'm gonna be able to cap all of it without spending a ton of currency buying things, which means it's even worse for people playing solo cell phone.
Like only 2% life nodes. They're 3%, so they're hardly even worth it. It's almost worth to just get strength on the skill tree everywhere. So because you can't actually make your character more meaningfully tanky, the bosses are literally starting to just one-shot you. And it's going to be a case where, again, you either time your dodge roll properly or you die. And this notion starts around the mid-game in the campaign and continues for the rest of the game for most builds. In the end game, and generally for end game, I'm talking about like at least mid-tier maps to end game maps, because the early game maps are actually really easy. You can just dive into the early game maps like they're absolutely nothing. There really isn't that much to them. Like if you're doing a tier 1 map, it's a snooze fest for the Necro Infernalist. But yes, as you go into like tier 6, tier 10 maps, it starts to get pretty serious. The end game is entirely balanced around avoiding one-shots with dodge, pretty much. You're going to see some streamers who are just ridiculously good at the game, at micromanaging the distance between them and the mobs, and they're going to play builds that are barely over 2k health in the highest tier maps. And I'm going to tell you that you are not going to enjoy that experience, speaking to like 99.9% of you. You basically need like 3,000 health and armor and ridiculous defenses to not get repeatedly one-shot, and you'll still get one-shot if you don't dodge at the right times, especially on like bosses and things.
Yep.
Maps are generally too big. Like this is something that has been talked about. It's, you know, I'm not the first one to bring this to the table. It's just like a real slog to go through some of these maps. Some maps are okay, some maps just feel really big. The visual clarity is very poor. There's some maps where you have to go down like a, you know, like a wood bridge or something, and there's like trees in front of it. You literally can't see your character. And I know it's like strategy, you know, maybe you don't go on there, but like, bro, what are you gonna do? Go all the way around the map? You're gonna do that to avoid a bridge if there's mobs on the other side? No, they kind of set it up in ways where you have to go through narrow areas where you can get like blocked in by a single monster in some cases. And yeah, you're just like completely screwed because you can't actually see your character. If you're like, you know, shooting the enemies from a spot where you can't see your character, they just put something under your character, bam, 4,000 damage. Sorry, you should have dodged it. So yeah, it doesn't feel very PoE 1-like, let's say, in that sense.
They have
in terms of
changed
hitboxes,
the character size.
they are fixing the dodge roll, getting you out of situations. They're going to make the dodge roll have like a 0 pixel like area or something, so you will be able to dodge out of an area if you're surrounded. They're also making it so you can push smaller monsters away. In the first few days, being surrounded was a death sentence for most builds that weren't literally just warrior, maybe monk.
True.
That felt terrible, but they are addressing that already. I haven't personally played that version of the game, but I think that will go a long way, so I'm not mentioning that as like a big downside here. But the mobs just have hitboxes that are too big. It's just like, just kind of dumb that there's mobs.
I agree with what he's talking about. I played a lot after the patch as well, but what I will say is one of my biggest problem has been something I don't understand why they're so adamant about keeping in this goddamn game, and that is on-death effects. Why? Why does a monster I have already killed that has loot on the ground have to have an on-kill explode effect? Especially when if you die once, you're done. I don't know how many times I've died to these things, and they're based at their HP. So when you're juicing up a map, so the enemies are super, super, super rippy, you kill it, you're like, oh, loot, go up, or you get crowd controlled, and then you see this monster, a big-ass guy just with a big belly, he's just charging up. He's dead already. Can't do anything. I'm just sitting there. Maybe I get crowd control, or I'm stuck in a corner, and the guy's just explodes, and there goes the map and my experience. Frustrating. I just don't understand why that is still a thing in today's day and age. It makes no sense to me, at least. It's just pain and misery. There's nothing cool about it. There's nothing enjoyable about it. Why is that a thing in a game?
That are native to some of these maps, and they can't go over like a bridge. They can't go through an alley. They're literally too big for their own maps. You're gonna see mobs getting snagged on like corners. They're like clipping, and your minions are doing the same thing.
Yeah,
like
the dog.
I don't have an example right now, but
I have
many examples playing the game. It just feels kind of jank. It feels like with a game as polished as Path of Exile 2 is, you shouldn't be
like small corridor maps or the towers. Oh god. Minions getting stuck on each other with a big fat doggo. It's not that big actually. Body blocks your entire skeletal army behind a door. Like, yeah. Thanks for the help, bro. Appreciate it. That's my entire damage source. Now, I think that I don't want to complain too much about those things, because I do believe that that is something that they're obviously going to have to address. The AI behavior, especially in small corridor maps and towers for minions, for example. But like the hitbox and the size of these things definitely has the problem that Kripp is talking about. That also exists for minions, at least for now.
Seeing this kind of crap in it. The thing is that if they make mobs' hitboxes a lot smaller, it might actually trivialize the difficulty of the game in a lot of cases, so they might not do that. That will be a tough one for them to solve, in my opinion. It is kind of tied to the map size. One suggestion that I have is I would like to see at least the maps with bosses in them just generally be the boss. Okay, I think it's kind of lame that in the maps that have bosses, yes, the boss is the challenge, but you still have to do like the entire map all over again. The bosses are pretty cool though, save for the fact that you have to use your dodge roll to avoid getting one-shotted in nearly all of them in the highest tier of maps. They are rewarding enough. If you are doing a map with a boss, it's going to give you like half the loot or more that you will get from that entire map, and that's actually kind of insane.
Yeah.
One thing that
Bosses
you'll notice if you're going through maps is that the mobs don't actually scale that much more HP. Like, I don't know the exact numbers, but it feels like the health of monsters as you climb the rank tiers doesn't go up that much. In Path of Exile 1, it goes up a whole lot. You can be cruise controlling in the early maps and really struggling in even the mid-game maps in Path of Exile 1. In PoE 2, the mobs in the lowest level maps have similar HP to the highest level maps. I would say no more than times 10. And times 10 is not that much because the first few maps are actually kind of easy. So what's different? Well, they do way more damage. They do way more damage.
Damage is
like,
nuts.
The entire game seems to be trying to find life nodes, but they're not on the passive tree. That's how you make a stronger character right now in Path of Exile 2, and it kind of feels like bashing your head against the wall a lot of the time in that sense. So what happens is you die. You're going to die a lot. I think death is actually too punishing for the game that they have set up. Just to be clear, what happens if you die? You lose the map that you're in. You lose experience. I think it's like 15%. Maybe it's 10. I'm not too sure. I didn't really look at it, but it's a lot, because the experience rates are similar to Ruthless and Path of Exile 1, which are absolutely brutal. Much, much harder to level up. You lose a lot of time, because to sustain the highest level maps in Path of Exile 2, what you need to do is you need to use maps you have a lot of on the nodes without bosses, and then the nodes that do have bosses, that's where you put your high maps. So in a high map, if you died against the boss because you mistimed your dodge roll once, you lose that map. You lose possibly some tablets in the tower that you cleared for it. You lose like the 3 maps which took you like an hour to complete to get to that boss map, so you can actually put in the map you actually wanted to run. And you might lose more experience than you've gained in the last hour if your level is high enough. And that might sound extreme, but I've been playing less than a week, and that's kind of what happens when I die in a high-level map currently. So I think it's too punishing. I think missing a dodge roll and losing that much just doesn't feel good. I think it's too punishing. It's also like pretty buggy in some cases with like near invisible one shots. Yesterday I got one shotted when I was like literally like 1 pixel in the beam. Like literally like my hero's armor was like a little bit in the beam. No, I died in like 0.1 second against the boss ability. I wasn't like perfectly centered around it. Right? So it's like super unforgiving. And again, when you might be watching this video, you're like, yeah, I like mechanics that are unforgiving. Well, maybe you'll watch this video again in 2 weeks and maybe you have a different opinion, I guess is what I'm trying to say with that. And a lot of the slightly before endgame maps is super trivialized with trading. I think trading is going to be kind of a problem for them to solve. I think the idea that like the sweatiest gamers are going to do the highest level maps, they're going to have like hundreds of level 20 gems, and because they have so many and they're getting them all the time, people are basically going to skip all of that progression by just buying high level gems and a few pieces of pretty decent gear. And they're just going to find the game pretty easy until they are repeatedly getting one shot in the highest few maps. And they're basically not going to experience the journey of getting there, and they're going to experience all the frustration that exists in the highest tier of maps. So I think
that is a very fair take. I haven't sold any skill gems. I'm dropping 19s. I've been pushing up to do level 20, dropping 20 gems. But I already see that already happening. Like I can actually show you in game right now. And like if I go to my gem sections, I stopped looting because I have so many. Like these are just the extra ones. I've leveled every gem up to 18. I have no idea how much those are worth. And it's like they're just selling. I saw people selling them in the chat earlier. People asking the global chat for them as well. And it's just crazy to me. The whole approach of that would literally make them. It would literally make them skip the entire progression of it. But if I look at my skills, I got level 19 flammability. I got my 19 skeletal arsonist, etc., etc. But it's like I can't really do much more with it. And the same thing goes for the spirit gems. These are the skill gems I've been picking up. There is my uncut spirit gem. I've used every uncut spirit gem that I've dropped for every level, and I have not dropped any extras. I just want to point that out. There's no extra uncut spirit gems left for me. That's how rare these are in comparisons. So I definitely can see how people will be buying those, and that's going to skip a lot of the progression for them. Like that's not going to be a good feeling at all, because I've been having a lot of fun up at the point I'm at. I'm still having fun right now. I definitely see the things that Kripp is talking about here, and I definitely agree that the one shots are very, very, very punishing. And I think that's a result of the whole one portal mapping. I also am not sure if the solution is that they should allow us to have several tries. Maybe they should. I don't know. It's just really hard for them to balance this because they got to find this middle ground to make it not as extreme as it is now. Because I think that's going to hurt the player base a lot in the long run.
a lot of people will kind of experience that play pattern. The rewards are also highly gated based on high maps. Low maps are kind of worthless. This is a bit of a change from Ruthless and Path of Exile 1. In Ruthless and Path of Exile 1, you could actually get very similar gear from a low-level map than you could in a high-level map, and this is especially true because you could clear them very quickly. You could also milk value from your Atlas tree in low-level maps in many cases, and there was basically a reason to do them. Right now in PoE 2, you get far more experience in the highest level maps, where you're also losing a lot of experience if you die, but you don't have that many of those. The only reason the lower level maps exist is to try to kind of climb the ladder of maps, and eventually you'll be at high level maps, and after that there's basically no reason for them to exist. The way that drops happen is they have a higher tier of drops. You see a tier 4 item or something. That means they have a lot of the lowest level of mods removed, and yeah, you're not going to see any of those in low-level maps. You're not going to see any of the good bases in low-level maps. Basically, the low-level maps are just bad. So I would really like to see them actually have some meaning, because right now they don't have a lot. They basically have none. Now that we're on items, a lot of people criticize that there's like no real crafting like in Path of Exile 1. I think their itemization is actually pretty good, except for the communication with tiers. I think
the tiered item drops is fucking fantastic. It's so good. The crafting part, I think Kripp is discarding the crafting aspect of it a little too early, a little too soon. Unless he, goes back to it. Maybe I paused the video too soon, but I feel like he's discarding it a bit too soon. The idea and the hype up and the communication from them about the whole itemization was very, very pushed on the idea of crafting your own items. That was like the main thing that was super hyped up. And since that is extremely limited and very, very, very so. It's a lot of just, hey, I'm gonna slam. That's all there is. You basically do that. And the only time you're not slamming something, and for those of you who don't know what slamming is, you're basically putting an exalted item on an item, exalted orb on an item. What it does, it adds one random modifier. That's it. It's a random modifier from a long list of modifiers, a long list of different tiers it can be, and you just gotta get lucky. Now, get lucky or get fucked. And that part of crafting, even in PoE, has never been fun unless you're doing super high-end crafting where it's like you're spending obnoxious amounts. And that doesn't feel that good. It's fun in the start. Oh, this is good. Let's hit it a few times, see if I get something good out of it. And that's always fun to do. But when that becomes the only viable crafting method, it becomes very frustrating. And I know there's a bit about this when it comes to like crafting methods such as the essences that I've talked about before. I've found one greater essence. And what that does is that instead of making a white item into magic, it makes a magic item into a rare with a guaranteed modifier. So that is a very effective way to guarantee certain mods. The problem is they're very scarce. I found one in 4 days actual active game time, which is kind of frustrating and insane. But if that's the only method, then we're literally in a position where you're not looking to find items on the ground that you want to work with. You're looking to find a good base item you want to put an item on, then put an essence on that, and then you want to add an augment on it to get a second mod. And if that fails, well, screw it. Just move on. If you hit something that you can play with, then you want to use another essence on it. Now you have 3 out of 6 modifiers. You at least want to have 2 of those 3 slams to hit something decent that you can use. Rinse, repeat that process. I don't agree that this itemization is good enough when the crafting method is in the current state it is. And I think the main reason for the itemization taking a lot of heat for this is because crafting is bad. If the crafting was better, I think the itemization is fantastic. But as a result of bad crafting approaches right now, itemization feels annoying. That's the best way I can put it.
That the way that tiers were displayed in Path of Exile 1 was better. Like you'd find an item with a lot of life, and you'd see that it has tier 1 life, meaning that it has the most life that item could possibly have. So yesterday I found an item with tier 11 life in the game, and it had a lot of life. It had like 180 something life, and I'm like, wow, is that the most? I don't know. I literally don't know. I don't know how good that item is, right? I don't know if I should invest further to try to chaos some of the other bad mods away. I just don't know. So I think the way that they flipped the tier system is actually worse for mods.
I don't agree with that. I really don't. I understand what he's saying, and I agree from a Path of Exile 1 player perspective. It was very annoying to get used to or understand it. I agree with the whole situation where the problem with it is that you don't understand, like Kripp was saying, you don't know if you have the best tier or not. You have no idea. It's a high number, but there's no possible way for me to determine that. That is frustrating, and it just doesn't communicate to the player that they have the best thing, which is really frustrating. But it makes sense that the higher tier it is, the better it is, right? That makes sense. Whereas in PoE 1 is very different, and that can be a bit annoying in some cases. But I do like that they flipped it back, because it makes sense because you have tiered gear, unless of course they would have flipped that as well. But it's just about getting used to it. But the information of No, understanding that is something that you would only naturally have if you know all the modifiers and all the tiers that they have, and most players never gonna get there.
For like crafting and stuff, it kind of sucks that a lot of the crafting options that were so awesome in Path of Exile 1 are just pretty much gone in Path of Exile 2. But on one hand, that was a little bit overwhelming for new players. It was really difficult for new players to understand if an item was good, especially because they had to basically imagine how they could craft on top of it later. In Path of Exile 2, an item is generally good or it's not. It's like Ruthless in Path of Exile 1, and that's pretty good. One thing they've also done really well with itemizations, their currencies in Path of Exile 2. I am currently engaging with all the currencies that I'm regularly finding. That's awesome. That's absolutely fantastic. Now, some of those currencies appear like they suck, but that's kind of how it is. There is pretty significant drop scarcity, but I would say that overall, their system of drop scarcity, the crafting options that you have, and generally progressing your character through gear is really consistent. I think this system has gone through a huge number of revisions, and is actually pretty good. There are a few parts of the game with like characters that I think have gone through maybe not enough revisions. Like I think the spirit system is cool, but like there's just no sense of balance there. Like, I'm playing a summoner, and I can spend for a max level an arsonist, which is one of the cheaper minions, 29 spirit for one, or and that is like 100 at low levels for one arsonist, like huge amount. Or I can spend 30 at all levels for the maximum number of raging spirits to spawn basically as I'm regularly playing the game.
And this is why I keep saying that, because of the current state of the game, if you're playing a minion build, you will use raging spirits. It's literally free damage compared to the damage value you get per spirit reserved from any other minion. There's no reason not to use SRS. You will use them. It's free damage.
There's just like, this doesn't make any sense. It's like one of those situations where it doesn't seem to kind of go with like one another. It's like they threw darts at a dartboard, and that's how much spirit, an ability costs. There's just not much sense when you compare the abilities. Even the minions themselves, there's just like the storm mage has a higher cost than the fire arsonist guy. Why? It's not any stronger. I don't know. The brute costs a whole lot. Is the brute useful? No. The mobs are completely ignoring your minions and beelining the player. Why would I lose 2 mages for a brute? I'm just not going to use the brute because it costs too much. So I think the spirit system needs some further revisions in terms of costs. I think it's quite off, and in some cases very off, but we'll see. Overall, I think it's a great game for like a campaign playthrough and early mapping. You're going to see a lot of build variety and diversity in that sense. Once you get to late game maps is where a lot of the problems start happening, and I think they imagine that, some of the top streamers of the game will just play that through anyway and kind of push that. That's possible, but I'm not sure. My predictions for Path of Exile 2 are as follows. I think the combination of a really tough campaign, especially for a lot of classes, and very limited high map tier viability will just kind of be draining for people who play this game all the time. For people that play this game, like people who play PoE 1 like year round, I think they will just find it like frustrating to play Path of Exile 2 that much. Maybe not for a while, but let's check back again in like a few weeks or a month.
I will say though, like, something GG is really good at in general is listening to player feedback and then adjusting content and balanced passes and changes to it. I think that videos like this and providing consistent feedback to them is really, really important so that they can improve these things. I do agree with almost everything that Kripp is bringing up here in this video is posted. By the way, I'll post it again in the YouTube and Twitch chat here. This is the video we're watching. Big shout out to Kripp about this as well. So do check the video out, give it a like.
I think they're going to seriously struggle to balance as classes are added and items are added to the game. Currently, we actually have very few items. Those of you that have played may not know this, but we're missing a massive amount of item types. There's like no swords, there's no axes, there's no spears, there's no classes that use these. There's probably going to be a bunch of new supports that interact with these because there's blank spots in the support skill gem crafting system when you go to all gems. And they have like repeatedly nerfed stuff in the very first few days. We literally had a hot fix like deleting a mechanic almost from Titan one day into the beta starting out. So, you know, I think they are really going to struggle to kind of put all the abilities in line with how many of them they have and how many they have yet to add. And I also think a really big part of PoE 2 right now is it won't really have the high reward and chill playstyle that certainly exists in Path of Exile 1. Path of Exile 1 is a mix. It's a mix of sometimes you'll have really challenging content, sometimes you'll just focus on really crafting something, sometimes you'll just like do a whole bunch of trading and improve your character that way in a very serious way because you can just equip any item you want. It's not like gated that much on like your levels and stuff most of the time. Now, yeah, you have the intense play time in PoE 1, but you also have the chill play time. In PoE 2, there's no chill. The only chill you're getting in PoE 2 is if you're doing content that's offering you nothing. Like yeah, I could do a tier 2 map. Like when I eat on stream, I'm literally playing with one hand and I'm unable to use my health potion. Do you know what I do? Tier 5 maps. Yeah. What do I get? Nothing. I complete the nodes where I go to the boss nodes where I actually need to do stuff. But like the chill playtime is 0. There's pretty much no reason to do it. There's no reward. There's no reward for chill, so the game is just not chill. It doesn't have the chill plus somewhat rewarding combo that is certainly there in Path of Exile 1. And I think largely because of that and the crafting.
Which it's actually funny that he's bringing this up because it's like something a lot of people have been talking about, myself included, is Path of Exile 2 is more casual friendly. Not having chill gameplay as an availability in a game that caters to a more casual, new player friendly audience compared to PoE 1 makes it contradicting. And I think that is one of the things that's going to hurt the player base in the long term a lot. And I don't know how the hell they're going to create this balance. Because the moment you say, well, we're going to make it so these more chill maps becomes more lucrative to run, you get something from them. First thing that's going to happen is now blasters are going to look at where do you get your most bang for your buck? Why would I risk my character when I can create a much cheaper or much more squishier character that does clearing faster and more effectively than a lower tier and get the rewards that way? And suddenly the end game doesn't matter because the hardest content is just not something people want to engage with because there's no point in it. I'm not like as the kind of gamer that I am, I like the challenges. I like the harder content, which is too punishing in the current state. But that doesn't mean that I don't want chill gameplay to be available. I will say though that when it comes to PoE 2 so far, minions builds like the Infernalist I'm playing right now allows for pretty chill gameplay. Most of the time, I play with one hand, even in tier 16s. I genuinely play with one hand in tier 16 maps, which is the highest tier map you can get to right now. And I do that simply because I'm able to. I will not be speed clearing it because you got to be careful with the one shots, but I am able to play with one hand very easily, and I can lean back and do so effectively because I have a large set of army, because we have to consistently treat every kind of enemy that you face as that guy can kill me, and if I'm standing next to him, he will kill me. As long as you have that mindset, I can just chill and be in the backline, let my minions deal with it. It's fine. But most builds are not minion builds. So we'll see what other people have to say about it moving forward.
systems that honestly I don't think will be added to Path of Exile 2 in this decade, at least. Path of Exile 1 will still have a pretty high demand of players, but for now, you know, PoE 2 is the latest and greatest, so people will just kind of be focused on that. But I certainly don't see Path of Exile 1 going away, just because it offers such a different kind of gameplay. Hope you guys enjoyed my review. Hope it was worth your time, and we'll see you next time.
Get some claps to the channel for Kripp. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm already subscribed. Yeah, I mean, that's all you got to do, boys. Get some claps to the channel for him. Big shout out to Kripp. Fantastic individual, by the way. If you don't know him, you should definitely check him out. But like I said, I've linked the video. Let me do it one more time. Here's the video. Give it a like. Don't forget to comment. Let me post it in a YouTube stream as well. Here we go. Here's the video I've been watching. It's from Kripp. I agree with most of the things he's talking about. I know this video got a little bit long-winded, but I definitely feel like it's there's a lot of concerns, good concerns to bring up. I think that one of the main things I'm not entirely agreeing on is the whole itemization and approach to that, simply because I believe more in the fact that with the thematical approach of focusing on you crafting your own things is so pressing that makes the itemization really, really, really good. But it becomes really bad when the crafting that we have available right now is literally in a base item hunt scenario. I am more excited about dropping a base white ring that has chaos resistance, knowing that I can alch orb it, or I can essence craft it, or I can put in the transmute and aug it. I'm more excited about that than finding a rare other ring, or finding a magic ring or something. And that just feels really awkward. Then you don't have a way to re-roll the items either. So if your initial hits fail, well, you're fucked. So what do you do now? You wait for the next time you find a white item. And the idea here was for people to be more incentivized to actually loot items off the ground, craft on them, and use them. I feel like I've stopped looting most of the rare items already. I'm in a position where I loot tiered items, or items that is for specific type of builds that could potentially be good. And for the most part, I identify and throw them out because it's kind of useless. And I have hundreds, and I mean hundreds of these orbs, and I can't, like, I will never run out of these. And despite me using them consistently, like every white item that has a good base, I will use them, and I still will never run out of this. But there's no way for me to re-roll them. The re-roll currency is chaos orbs, which basically means if you have an item with a bunch of modifiers that looks good, we can destroy something here. Let's take a look at this. What do we have here? This is a high life energy shield based, pretty good. Level melee skills with only 1 resistances. So it's not very valuable. But what I could do is I can then get a secondary rest. So what I'm incentivized to do with this item is I would put a chaos orb on it and hope that I get rid of the reduced attribute requirements or the level melee skills and get another rest. If that happens, they'll be worth something. If I hit it, that's exciting. For the most part, this is the crafting method. Now, I don't have any chaos orbs, so I'll have to first buy some chaos orbs if I haven't done that. And they have currency exchanging game. Thank God for that, because this is going to be very, very, very pressing when it comes to these things. I don't need to buy that many. What the hell? Let's do this. Losing money for the video. Doing this once. What did I lose? I lost physical damage to a worse physical damage. I'll go again. I lost my rest and got a better rest. I'll go again, and now I lost my life. So there I spent what seems to have been 3 Exaltas worth of my currency, and I ended up making the item significantly worse for me. And at this point, this is not going to be sellable, so I'm just going to go ahead and literally delete them. That is a crafting process. If I hit, that would have been exciting. It really would have. But I don't have many other ways of doing this. So I think that's one of the biggest problems that makes itemization, not making the itemization bad, but make items in general in the game feel bad, because I'm more incentivized to find bases that I want to craft on. But I can't re-roll things, and it just feels awkward to do that in that way. That's my take on it. I think it has more to do with crafting. Anyways, again, I'll leave a link in the description to Kripp. Shout out to him for the video. It was solid. I agree with almost everything. And hope you guys enjoyed this. My take on my reaction to this as well. But leave a comment down below what you guys think of the video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content, by the way. Stay safe. Keep rocking.